Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. Made it to another week, and PFF released another list. And there really isn't a whole lot else going on in the world of football right now, so I thought it'd be fun to take a look at this one as well and see how the Seahawks fared. PFF ranked every secondary in the NFL. PFF ranked all the defensive back groups in the NFL from 1 to 31. And this one's definitely of interest to the Seahawks. We have invested a lot into our secondary, more than most teams. You take a look at our secondary, we are spending more money on our safeties than any other team in the NFL. We are spending now a top 5 pick on a cornerback. We also have some guys who are like young, not a huge investment in them yet, but showed some promise in 2022. Some guys showed a lot of promise, like Woolen. Some guys showed a good amount of promise, like Mike Jackson. And then some guys showed moderate, more kind of a little bit of promise, like Kobe Bryant. But all three of them showed encouraging signs. So you put that all together, it's kind of a hodgepodge, a mishmash of secondary pieces. Guys who are very expensive and guys who are very cheap. And right now, it's honestly the guys who are cheap who are probably doing a little bit more than the guys who are expensive. But forget all that for a second. Forget about the money. Forget about the investment. Let's think about how good this secondary is. Is this one of the best secondaries in the NFL? Right now, it's kind of hard to say that. I don't think we can go that far yet. We definitely need to see some reps put in from Jamal Adams. We need to know that he's actually even going to be able to play this year to start. And then he's going to actually need to stay on the field. We need to see if Quandre Diggs has a bounce back season. Now, I think he will. It makes sense that he would. But there's no guarantee of it. He is now on the wrong side of 30. He's going to be 31 by the time the season ends, I believe. So maybe not. That's always a possibility. And then, of course, we have to see how these cornerbacks pan out. But it seems like it should be one of the better secondaries in the NFL, right? Like, PFF would definitely be able to back me up here in understanding how good these guys can be. Like, Jamal Adams got incredible PFF grades back when he was on the Jets. Now, obviously, it hasn't been that good in a little while here, but that has had more to do with injury than it has been play. And I don't know how seriously PFF is considering injuries in this article because they don't really consider depth at all. And I feel like that's another thing that kind of hurts the Seahawks here. But, well, let's just get down to brass tacks here. You got to scroll down a little bit to get to the Seahawks on this list. They are not in the top half. Now, the good news is they're almost in the top half. They're one spot away from the top half. PFF put us at 17th. And as you can see, the guys that they're largely evaluating here are Tariq Woolen, Witherspoon, Kobe Bryant, Quandre Diggs, and Jamal Adams. The presumed starters, the two safeties, and then three cornerbacks. Now, I said it before and I'll say it again. With the way this camp is going, I feel like Mike Jackson is going to end up working his way onto the field. My best guess would be Woolen and Witherspoon are the outside corners on base, and then in the nickel, Jackson plays outside, Witherspoon plays inside. I think that's something that could work really well, but it wouldn't make a huge difference in the eyes of PFF. PFF does not consider Mike Jackson to be some over-the-top superstar that is going to single-handedly make this secondary elite. So, bottom line is, according to PFF, we have an average secondary. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think it's at least pretty close to being accurate when you take a look at what we've gotten from these guys lately. Now, where I don't know how PFF is evaluating things is, okay, obviously Jamal Adams has not been able to stay healthy the last 2 years. We all know that. He's had since he got in Seattle, he's had many significant injuries and has had a hard time staying on the field. But are they including that in their evaluation of this secondary? And if so, are they incorporating Julian Love into this equation? Because Julian Love was signed on a multi-year deal in the offseason. I don't think we do that and then not play him, but you can see he's not listed here. And then you take a look at any other team's list of projected starters. They don't really talk about depth. Depth is not really the consideration for this ranking. It seems to be about the guys who are projected to play a lot, barring injury. So therefore, you take a look at this secondary, you've got Jamal Adams, who is still probably capable of playing at a Pro Bowl level. I don't know about all pro anymore, but he should be able to play at a Pro Bowl level. And Quandre Diggs, who has literally made the Pro Bowl several times in the last few years. And then you got a guy like a Tariq Woolen and Witherspoon, who was a top 5 pick that PFF loves, by the way. And Kobe Bryant can go one way or the other, but you put that all together, I don't see how that's a bottom half of the league secondary. If you're going to tell me it's because Jamal is going to get hurt probably, then I'm going to say, okay, then you need to factor in the guy who's going to replace him, probably Julian Love. And Julian Love had a successful career in New York. So if you throw that into the equation, you throw in the depth. And I'm not even talking about the Mike Jackson thing, because I understand Mike Jackson is take it or leave it, to PFF anyway. But I feel like this could probably go a little higher. But I don't think it would go up that higher, right? Like, we don't have a superstar in the secondary yet, I think. It's kind of like the offensive line evaluation. When you looked at the Seahawks offensive line, I think the reason why it was ranked so low on PFF, even though I think PFF bricked that ranking very badly, it was probably because the offensive line doesn't really have a superstar. This secondary doesn't really have a superstar either. Jamal Adams is capable of being a star, but we haven't seen it in a few years. Quandre Diggs, maybe he's a star, but he's not a superstar. And I don't even know if he's a star anymore. He's a really good player. And Tariq Woolen, now this one going to be controversial for some people because we all love Tariq Woolen, but he's not a superstar yet. Witherspoon has superstar potential, and I know PFF agrees with that, but he hasn't played yet. So I'm thinking the reason why this ranking is relatively low is because we don't have that like a Patrick Surtain II type guy. We don't have that, and I know this is going to irritate people, but PFF considers him a superstar already, so we don't have a Sauce Gardner. We don't have a Jalen Ramsey. These guys that are considered to be money in the bank all-pros. In fact, Tariq Woolen actually gets mentioned in this blurb here from PFF, and I really will say, I'll say this. I strongly object to what PFF wrote here. Woolen has some boom or bust to his game as he intercepted 6 passes but allowed 5 touchdowns a season ago. I don't know how allowing 5 touchdowns makes you boom or bust. I don't see how Woolen's season at all last year it was boom or bust at all just because he allowed 5 touchdowns. Off the top of my head, I think a couple of those touchdowns were like 2 or 3 yard passes on a play where he basically got screened out. And yeah, his guy caught the touchdown on, it was like a bubble screen, but there was no opportunity to make the play and it didn't really mean anything. Giving up a short 3 yard touchdown completion doesn't make you boom or bust. And you take a look at Woolen's receptions allowed, according to PFF, the site that we're using, it was only 549, not even 550. So basically less than 33 yards a game. I don't see how that's boom or bust. I don't see any games here where he allowed more than... Yeah, he doesn't have a single game here, according to PFF, where he allowed more than 57 yards. He allowed 57 yards against Tampa Bay. That was the highest. So, boom or bust, I don't see it. Boom or bust is Trevon Diggs in 2021. You want boom or bust, okay. Now you're talking. Over 1,000 yards allowed in coverage and 11 interceptions with 5 touchdowns. That is boom or bust. I don't see anything here that says boom or bust to me, right? 549 yards, again, that's 32 to 33 yards a game. And there are no outliers here where he like, oh, wow, that game he allowed 150 yards. Didn't happen. So, yeah, I strongly disagree with that evaluation. If you want to knock Woolen for anything, it's pretty easy. Just look at his tackling grades. His tackling grade on the season was 36.5. Run defense grade was sub 50. If you want to knock Tariq Woolen, there are definitely ways to do it, but I don't see how these coverage numbers spell anything close to boom or bust. Again, this is boom or bust. Trevon Diggs, that is a boom or bust player. I don't know what they saw with that evaluation. It seems to contradict their own findings on the Tariq Woolen page. But anyway, he's not a superstar yet. Woolen's not there yet. He's got a little bit of work to do. I think he'll do it. I think he will get there. But at the same time, I understand why there's some skepticism around that. At the end of the day, he was a 5th-round pick that was not on many people's radars. I don't think PFF had some super high grade on him going into that draft. So they may just be looking at it like, oh, he's already kind of hit his ceiling. He's not really going to get any better than he already is. He'll never be a great tackler. I mean, he did start out as a wide receiver. Maybe they're looking at things like that. I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it. In fact, I do think Woolen will improve as a player. Partially because, well, I mean, he's got a long way to go as a tackler. There's a lot of upside potential here for him to get better as a tackler. I don't see how he doesn't. I mean, he was a rookie last year. Again, it's really hard to not get better at a sport the more you play it. And Woolen, specifically at the cornerback position, is still kind of new. But that's kind of the big thing that they said here that I'm kind of hung up on. Well, not really hung up on, but the main reason why I feel like that's why they got to this conclusion, but I don't agree with the conclusion. I don't see Woolen being boom or bust. He's a really good corner who took away a lot, made a lot of plays on the ball, and took the ball away, and didn't allow a lot of big plays. In fact, he allowed very few big plays. But other than that, I think this is a relatively fair evaluation of our secondary. I do think we will probably be better than this when you look at the circumstances. Jamal Adams played, 15 plays last year? He's got to be able to top that. Kobe Bryant was a rookie. Not that I'm super high on him becoming a star, but he can get better. Quandre Diggs, I think, will be better a year away from that massive injury that he had. I do think this secondary will end up around the top 10, and I expect us to get there just because of the circumstances of this collection of players. But for right now, I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it, though. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think of this secondary ranking? Do we have the 17th best secondary in the league going into 2023? And are we going to build on that in a positive way to where by the end of the season we are clearly better than 17? See you guys later. Go Hawks. More videos coming later this week.